Hello, everyone. Welcome to Read the World. Just an idea I had to tell you about what I'm reading is to talk to you about the books I got at a book swap. So I'm living in a new city. I have a couple of friends in the area. I'm living with a friend. I have a couple of friends that I already knew, but I'm still really searching for community and people to hang out with really frequently. So I went to a book swap at a local bookstore and I picked up these 3 books. I brought 3 books that I got for free on a Facebook Buy Nothing group. And I was just like, well, I got these for free. I wanted to read them, but I have nothing else to trade because I don't want to open up my cardboard boxes of books yet because I have no bookshelf. And so I know if I open these books, then they're just going to be open with books everywhere and it's going to take over my life and it's going to be a disaster. So I'm just going to trade. I'm just going to swap these books I got for free and have no attachment to. So I swapped those. In return, I got these 3. I have, hefty, The Bone Season. And then I have slightly less hefty Normal People and Conjure Women. So first we have The Bone Season. The guy who brought this in, very beautiful, stunning cover. It's the 10th anniversary special edition. And that's really what stood out to me. Clearly a fantasy novel, very exciting. The guy who brought this to swap was like, I didn't like this one, not my cup of tea, but perhaps someone else will like it. And I did not realize that it was written by Samantha Shannon, who wrote The Priory of the Orange Tree, which I didn't love. I get why people liked it. I thought that the imagery and the settings were really excellent. I thought the romance was kind of hokey. I wasn't really feeling it. I thought that the actual plot was really simplistic, just not compelling to me. I thought the world was cool in Priory of the Orange Tree, but this was on my TBR on Goodreads. I don't remember why I put it on there. I don't remember who recommended it, but at some point I felt compelled to put this on the list and I was like, well, I can get it for free right now, so I'm going to do it. So we're going to see. I have 2 against this book and 1 for. 2 against is the guy who was like, I'm swapping this and I didn't like it. The other one is me, who didn't like the author's other book. And then the 1 for is that somebody told me to read it, so I put it on my list. So I don't know. That's here. It's a possibility. Then I have Normal People by Sally Rooney. This is one that I've heard so much about Sally Rooney and all of her stuff. She's also written, there was her last one, Intermezzo, that was really huge. That was a really big deal when it came out. Conversations with Friends, I want to say, is a really big one. I've just heard so much. I had a roommate in grad school who really loved Sally Rooney. If you're watching, you know who you are. And so I'm excited to actually read this and see what the hype is all about. That'll be interesting. And then finally, I have Conjure Women by Afia Atakora. This one appears to be Black women in the South before and after the Civil War, generations of women and their perhaps supernatural healing abilities. I have had excellent luck with Black fantasy this year. Black fantasy / supernatural, see the examples around. And so I feel really good about this one. I feel excited about this. So that's what I'm going to be reading in the next little bit. And let's see if I can finish these before the next swap in a month. I'm about halfway through The Bone Season. And I'm not trying to be dramatic, but I honestly think it's one of the worst books I've ever read. Is that true? Definitely one of the worst books of the year. And I'm going to keep reading it. I'm going to read every single page. For this, I guess. So the main character, Paige, it has superpowers. Lots of people in this world have superpowers. The government hates people with superpowers and has convinced the populace that people with superpowers are unnatural and evil and disgusting. And if you are found to have superpowers, then the government will disappear you, and supposedly you'll be executed. The main character is part of an elite force of people with powers in the mafia, basically. Despite that, the fact that she's supposedly in this elite force, she's still completely incompetent and doesn't know how to use her powers, I guess, and so she gets caught because she doesn't know anything about her powers, even though she's on this elite team. I don't know. So it turns out that when you get disappeared by the government, you are not executed. You are brought to this secret, protected neighborhood where a bunch of unearthly beings have enslaved people with powers in order to force them to fight monsters from another dimension that are trying to destroy the world. So Paige, it turns out, has super special powers that are way more interesting and rare than everyone else's because she's super special. So that has gained the attention of one of the particularly elite otherworldly beings. Okay, side note, just I have many qualms galore about this book. This man, this huge metallic man that is this otherworldly being that has decided to train her, is the consort of the leader of these beings. At one point, one of the other beings refers to him as a concubine, and the main character is like, what can this possibly mean? What does concubine mean? And I'm thinking, like, is she stupid? Or like, is she uneducated? Like, she just doesn't know what words mean. So I'm thinking she's gonna go look it up in a dictionary or something and find out what concubine means. But instead she's like, I've been looking everywhere, I've been looking in books, I've been asking around, nobody knows what the word concubine means. I'm like, I'm sorry, why is one facet of this world building the fact that somehow the word concubine has been erased from the zeitgeist? Sorry, how did that happen? How did that happen? I mean, perhaps it will be revealed because it's come up a few times of her trying to figure out what the word concubine means. So that may very well be part of the world, is that, but that's the only case when a word has been eliminated from the common vocabulary, which doesn't make any sense. Lots of things in this don't make any sense. Right now, my biggest qualms, and they have brought this up a little bit, and so I'm afraid it's going to have a really stupid explanation just because the way it's been executed has been so absurd. But this kind of feels like if in Harry Potter, if instead of Harry being so excited to get a letter and being brought on this fanciful train to this beautiful castle, if Harry was just kidnapped forcibly and enslaved at Hogwarts and being like, isn't it so horrible that we're forcing you to learn magic in order to fight Voldemort? Isn't that so awful? And being like, oh, I can't believe I've been enslaved. It's so awful. I hate these people. And if that was Harry Potter, because that's what this feels like, is that all of the things that these otherworldly beings are having these people with powers do seems good. Like, they're living in a place where they're not persecuted for having powers. They're being trained to use their powers. And they're being trained to use their powers to fight monsters that are trying to destroy the world. And so that seems like, those all seem like things that these people with powers would probably voluntarily do. I see no reason for like violently kidnapping them and then like starving them and beating them. I just don't understand this system. Is it just because these otherworldly creatures are inherently cruel and violent? And they've kind of brought that up a little bit of like, why are they doing it this way? We know that there was a rebellion at some point, and that like everybody who rebelled was killed. But it just seems like when it comes to the stability, like the productivity and the stability of this community where all these people powers are, that you would want to treat them well. I just think that it would be easy, that it would just be easier for everyone if everyone was doing this voluntarily. If you were just like, hey, we're gonna take care of you, and like, well, okay, also the otherworldly beings control the government that is persecuting them and everything. But like, another thing that really bothers me is that mafia dons in the outside world that have powers are called mimes for no reason, at all. It is completely unexplained why they're called mimes, because they still all speak, like they have powers. So there are mime lords and mime queens. Those are the kings and queens of the criminal underworld. If people use their powers to commit crimes, then it's called mime crime. The word mime is already, so the image that a mime conjures in the mind is already a bizarre little cartoon. I'm sure that miming is a storied and complex art, but in popular culture, the word mime is a funny word, and when you think of a mime, you think of a funny little cartoon French guy, like pretending to be in a box, right? This is the kind of book that gives you the term mime crime and expects you to take it seriously. Just completely, like, earnestly is like, this is what it's called, and this is serious stuff. Just crazy. Another thing that is honestly just driving me nuts at this point is that there are these insane appendices that just are so frustrating. So this is one of the many appendices. This is the one that I have been referencing the most, and that is the list of all the different kinds of powers that people can have. Look how many. Okay? So there are 7 larger categories of powers that one can have, and then all these little titles for different kinds of powers that fit into the 7 categories. I counted all of the different terms for different kinds of powers, and there are 52 of them. 52. And this book will just use a term for a person with a kind of power without explaining what it means. And this is infuriating to me because it says at the beginning of this appendix, note, you do not need to learn the 7 orders of clairvoyance by heart to understand the bone season. If a type of clairvoyance is especially relevant to the story, page will explain it. I mean, I guess every once in a while something will kind of be explained, but for the most part, they're just throwing around terms like soothsayer and cartomancer and cryomancer and whatever, and not explaining what it means. And what's frustrating is that the book will also, when talking about the same person, refer to them as their category name. Like, we'll refer to them as a soothsayer, but then we'll also refer to them as their more specific type, like a freaking dactylomancer or whatever. And so you're like, and so I'm so confused. I'm like, wait, are they a soothsayer or are they a dactylomancer? And then I'm looking, and it's both, because it's both the category and the specific. And it's like, it's so confusing. It's so frustrating. Very rarely explained, even though this promises that it will. And I really just don't see a need to have separate terms for people who can see the future with cups versus people who can see the future with axes. That's crazy. I like the idea of the powers. It's kind of occult, spiritual kind of powers. So like people can see the future, people who can see ghosts, and then there's a lot of overlap. Are there more than that? 7. There's people who can be possessed and controlled by ghosts, people who can affect the spirits of others. Censors are people who have the ability to interact with ghosts, but then it says that there's a whisperer, which is someone whose power is being able to hear spirits' voices but not understand them, which, I'm sorry, imagine with being cursed with the ability to hear spirits' voices but not understand them. There's a sniffer who's capable of smelling ethereal activity. Okay. A polyglot who is capable of speaking and understanding glossolalia, the language of spirits, and may have uncontrollable outbursts. Okay, so there's a polyglot who can understand and talk to ghosts. And then there's a whisperer who can just hear noises, I guess. And then a gustant who is capable of tasting ethereal activity. I mean, like, these are stupid. Also, what's kind of driving me crazy is that I know absolutely, look how much of this I've read. I've read this much. I know absolutely nothing about Paige. I don't know anything that she likes. I don't know anything that she dislikes. I know things that she does, things that she has done. Her main character trait is being defiant and doing the opposite of what she's told to do, which is a classic young adult female main character trait. She just exists and reacts to the things around her, usually by being mad and trying not to do the things she's asked to do. And I understand, like, it is tough to be enslaved by otherworldly beings, to hone your superpowers and fight monsters in order to save the world. That must be really tough for her. It just makes her insufferable to be around as a character. But on the other hand, what a beautiful cover, right? So why am I even complaining? Finished it. It didn't get worse. It didn't get better. They shoehorned a romance into it last minute. I think I mentioned that I didn't love the romance in the Priory of the Orange Tree. I just didn't buy it. Didn't buy this either. It kind of just like came out of nowhere. Like, I didn't see any chemistry between the characters. It was making it seem like the guy, like the love interest, was involved with someone else, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, now we're making out in the basement. Like what? I just didn't see it. I didn't understand why they were into each, like, I really did not understand the romance at all. And yeah, they did it. They escaped. I really thought, still very irritated with the main character here. I also thought that she just like got saved too often. Like, she just got saved by men a lot. And then but like it was trying to portray her as like this badass female heroine, but like I really don't think she was a very active character. The love interest and like a bunch of her male friends kept saving her, and I'm just like, I'm not super into that. I just could not figure out like what was up with this governmental system. I went back and I remembered I thought to myself, okay, we have to go back to this page when you film again, because I reread this part and was like, okay, maybe if I read this to you, you'll be able to comment and tell me like, this is what's going on, because I don't really get it. When they first are violently kidnapped and dragged into a dungeon and then taken to this other city where these otherworldly beings are holding everyone and then horribly forcing them to improve their psychic powers in order to fight the monsters that are trying to kill us all. How dare they? The leader says, most of you are clairvoyant, capable of interacting with the ether. You commune with spirits, and in return, they may offer you their guidance and protection. But when these drifting spirits grow too great in number, too cowardly or stubborn to leave, to meet their unmaking in the last light, it places a significant burden on the ether. Some time ago, this burden finally became too heavy, shattering the ethereal threshold. No indication of what shattering the ethereal threshold means. When the ethereal threshold broke, the netherworld was overrun by hostile creatures named Emim. They feed on flesh and spirit, devouring both without remorse, and they do not hear reason. Their arrival caused the netherworld to fall into decay, forcing us to abandon it. In 1859, we crossed the veil to Earth and negotiated with the human government of England. Sorry. Together, we agreed on a new way of living to ensure the Earth would not also fall to the Emim. We established the Republic of Sion. When we arrived, we found you vulnerable. Only a small number of humans are clairvoyant. Still fewer have marginally useful abilities. We might have simply let the Emim overrun your world to avenge the loss of ours. We might have killed you all. Instead, we showed mercy. Here in this city, a bargain was struck. You stand in the very forge of the anchor. So I guess these otherworldly beings resent human beings for creating the circumstances in which the Emim destroyed their world, because they shattered the ethereal threshold, whatever that means, because there were too many spirits? Like, there are too many spirits, so humans can have these clairvoyant powers, which these otherworldly beings also have, the Rephaim or whatever. The Rephaim also use, like, these otherworldly beings, they also use clairvoyant powers, but it never brings up that, like, their powers are bringing too many drifting spirits into the ether and putting a burden on it. Like, only humans do that. And also, there's no indication that the humans, like, were doing it on purpose. It's just, like, completely unknowingly, people were having powers. Because also before the Rephaim came, like, it sounds like people weren't very aware of people with clairvoyant powers. So people were just kind of, like, around, like, doing stuff. And then, like, the spirits were building up and they had no idea. And then, unwittingly, that shattered the ethereal threshold. I'm sorry, that's just a dumb phrase. Like, that's such gobbledygook. And that destroyed the Rephaim's world when the monsters came and ate it, I guess. And now they're like, how dare you let these but like, I just don't, there's just a disconnect here for me of, like, even though it would be easier to achieve our goals by giving you the free option to come hone your powers and help fight monsters, because we resent you for unknowingly shattering the ethereal threshold and ruining our world, we're going to torture and enslave you in order to achieve our goals, even though I really, really think that everything would just go so much smoother if they just employed everyone normally. I just don't get it. There's also this whole subplot of, like, the main character, like, back when she was in, like, the criminal underworld, she worked under this guy who was, like, the hated. So many people, like, resented him. Like, he was this criminal boss because he's the one who published a pamphlet that first, like, classified all the different kinds of clairvoyance and their powers and put them in different categories. And because this random dude who published a pamphlet said that he thought some of those categories were better than others, that apparently instantaneously created even though like, people have openly had these powers for 200 years, just within the past few years, this dude published this pamphlet, and that instantaneously created like a horrible hierarchy among all people with powers, and the ones that he said were really common and unhelpful became, like, rejected in the clairvoyant underworld, and then all, like, the special rare ones became, like, really elite, which I just think society doesn't work like that. Like, society doesn't instantly rearrange their social order. They hurt the big bad and escape the bad city, and now off they go. to me, I was really shocked. I looked up this book because I was like, this feels like a book that somebody published on Wattpad. And like it said that it was like the 10th anniversary special edition, and it was revised and had new material. So I was like, is this something that like 10 years ago got like Wattpad published as like a paper book, and it's one of it was because it just feels like an adolescent fever dream of like, I'm just really obsessed with coming up with 52 different names for powers and making up all of these crazy words that I'm not going to explain, and I'm going to call it the bone season, not because that makes any sense, but just because it sounds sick. And it just feels like something that a teenager made up while just like thinking about it too much in their room. But no, apparently she did write it while an adult and working for a publishing company. Is that too harsh? I'm sorry. Was that really mean? I deeply disliked this. I gave it 1 star. This might be one of my worst books of the year. I just thought it was so. Ugh. Oh man. Anyway, that's my thoughts on that. I just finished Normal People by Sally Rooney. I read it all today, mostly at work, and then finished it when I got home from work. And yeah, because I read most of it at work, there wasn't a good time for me to stop in the middle, and also it's quite short. How do I feel? I like just now finished, like just now. So you're getting just like totally raw thoughts right now. There's this very cathartic grief that I have felt while reading this, of seeing these characters' interactions and experiences and emotions expressed in this way. And it reminded me so much of emotions I've experienced, interactions, relationships I have had. And so that's been like a very emotionally validating experience of like, this book sees me, I see it. But then also, it has a lot of difficult, messy events happen between characters that I also really related to. I feel like I've been in similar situations. And so it made me think a lot about like, oh, I wonder if the other person was feeling the way that this character did when they did that. And just thinking about those times in my life, and just like how like it's called Normal People. It's just about normal people. It's a very all thoughts no plot kind of book. There really isn't like a huge story here. It's just two normal people in like these coming of age moments in their lives, and just what that is like. They both have their own baggage and their own ways of handling things, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. But then it's also just about like the search to be understood and to be seen, for someone to know you. Kind of what gets in the way? What gets in the way of allowing other people to know us? What gets in the way of being our best selves, of treating other people well? And then also in turn, like what motivates us to be good? I can totally see how some people would find this boring or pretentious, but it's just like, to me, like I got it. Like it clicked with me. It touches on so many of the just like everyday, complicated, messy, but also like beautiful and emotional and profound moments of relating to other people and being involved in other people's lives. This book's not for everyone. Some people will definitely think that this is stupid and boring. I'm giving it 5 stars. It just felt so good. And like, people in this book are depressed and abused, and they make bad choices, but all in such like ordinary ways. I know these people. Like, we've met these people, you've met these people. But then also they're able to find those profound moments of connection and communion, and just like, like there's just something about the way that this captures the power of ordinary moments. Am I making any sense right now? I get it. Okay, I get it. I get normal people. I got it. I love the way it portrays like what it feels like to just like really enjoy another person, and to want to be around them, and to feel like they're supposed to be in your life, and to feel like they understand you, and like they get you on a really special level. And then also how we can really screw up those relationships, and then and fix them, and just go back and forth. And like I couldn't stop reading it. Like, nothing is happening in this book, and I just had to see what the characters were going to do and feel, and how they were going to react, and how they were going to interact. Like, I had like nothing exciting happens. They're just like going to school like in it, and just talking to people. It's just conversations between normal people about normal things. And yet I was still so absorbed in these characters and in the emotion. I don't think I was very coherent in talking about this, but like I got it. I get it. I get the Sally Rooney thing. I get it now. Okay, so I'm almost exactly halfway through Conjure Women, and to be honest, I am unimpressed. I was all for the premise that was like introduced at the beginning of the story, that the main character, her mother, was this healer, this knowing the right herbs and stuff, and a little bit new supernatural. They can, you know, put curses on people and heal curses and things like that. And her mother died, and she had taught her a lot of it, but not all of it. And so now the main character is trying to take her mother's place in the village, and then this Christian preacher moves in and seems to have good intentions, but it's turning all of the people in her town against her. Oh, also, like, when it's kind of focused on her mother, it's talking about like slavery times, and when it's focused on her, it's like post-slavery. So townspeople are starting to regard her as like a witch, or like bringing bad fortune, bad luck, causing problems for everyone, even though she's not. And that's pretty much it. Like, now I'm 200 pages in. Oh, also, this looks slim. See? But it's 400 pages. Like, whatever paper they used, it hides the fact that it is 400 pages. So like 200 pages in, that's pretty much all that has happened. She's a healer, semi-supernatural. That's it. Like the villagers turn against her. She's trying to make that not happen. Because also there's like a baby that they think is cursed because it looks weird, and maybe they're gonna hurt the baby. I don't know. Like, that's and like in 200 pages, that's all that's happened. There's a little bit of background on like the daughter of like the former master of the plantation. One thing that I really am just kind of bummed about is that a lot of the things going on are potentially like kind of dark, and like could be portrayed in like a very spooky way. Like, there could be a lot more like eerie imagery and language used, and instead it's all like quite straightforward, and that's just a little more boring to me. I don't know, it's just like a very straightforward story about a woman trying not to get thrown out as a witch, and that's it. I just feel like there could be more of everything. All of that. There should be more. And it just kind of keeps going on and on. Yeah, I'm bored. Does not live up to my expectations thus far. I know that I kind of went on and on about like the other books, but that's all I have to say about this one so far. And I think that speaks a lot about what's going on. I finished it. I'm giving it 2 stars, which makes me feel kind of bad because I really feel like the author was trying to do something here. I stand by everything else I said about how I think it could have been really good if it had just like amped up the drama. I think if it had been written as a horror novel, it could have been way more interesting. Like, literally all the exact events that happened in this book could have still happened, but if it had just been described in a different, more dramatic, spooky way, it could have been significantly more interesting. But instead, it was just boring. It was just boring. And then also, especially near the end, it just really started being baffled by a lot of characters' decision making that just really didn't make any sense to me. There's this one sequence with the main character's pregnancy that I found could have been spooky, but instead just kind of fell flat for me, and then just kind of faded away, and I just thought it was so bizarre. Like, I thought it was bizarre, not what happened, but like the way it was portrayed, of like, wait, that could have been much more impactful, but then it just kind of, yeah, it was just flat. Like, I never really got any satisfying conclusion about what it was really saying or exploring with religion, because there's a light-skinned preacher that's very prominent in this, and the way that he navigates the community is very contradictory, which could be interesting if it had done anything with it, but it didn't. I just felt like there was so much lost potential. There was also a major reveal that could have been a shocking twist, but that was just kind of casually revealed halfway through, that I found completely lackluster. Of like, oh, okay. But like, if it had held off and not been like waited until the very end to reveal what that was, it could have been really crazy. But instead, it was just kind of like casually dropped in the middle, and I was like, what? Oh, okay, and then just like moved on. And then there was another twist about like the real father of some children that was just bizarre. And like, but not like a genuinely, I love a bizarre book. Like, it was bizarre the way it was presented, of like, okay, what are you trying to say with that? I don't know. It could have been so much more, and twas not, alas. So 2 stars. So isn't that a fascinating array of books? Started off with a 1 star, then a 5 star, then a 2 star. So kind of going back and forth a little bit with that. Altogether, a very interesting mixed bag. 3 very different books, all very different from each other, different genres, different experiences, different styles. Overall, I think I want to continue chronicling my experiences with these book swap books. I'm hoping that next month will be a little bit better. Maybe I'll get better at kind of gauging what I'm going to enjoy or not enjoy. We shall see. Let me know. Have you ever been to a community book swap? I will see you next time. Ta-ta.